everybody, welcome back to month 3 of the puzzle mystery quilt Wild West. I'm making a movie called The Sun, It Sets in the West. Hope everybody is ready for month 3. Okay everyone, I know that this clue is a little late. As many of you know, I was moving, and so that has been a process, and I know that this isn't the best setup in the world, but it's what I got for the moment, so we're gonna run with that for the time being. It may be a little funky for a little bit, but I promise guys, we'll get back to normal here hopefully very soon. All right, so let's talk about clue number 3 for Wild West. We're gonna be working on the large size, so let's take a look and see what's inside clue packet 3. Starting off, we have 4 triangles, small triangles of F fabric. We have 6 small triangles of E fabric. We have 8 small triangles of D fabric. We have 8 small triangles of B fabric. We have 2 small triangles of A fabric. We have 2 large triangles of E fabric. We have 4 large triangles of D fabric. We have 4 large triangles of B fabric. We have 4 large triangles of A fabric. We have 2 large squares of E fabric. And then lastly, we have 8 large squares of C fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and move these off to the side, and we'll go ahead and get started with step number 1. Okay, for step number 1, it says to sew a small D triangle to one side of a C square, and we're going to make 2 of them. Remember, you can do that trick where you fold it in half and find the middle of both of them and kind of fit them together like puzzle pieces. I've done it before here on my channel, so you should be familiar with it, but it makes it a lot easier trying to find the center since these don't quite line up. I'm going to go ahead and sew 2 of these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing them out. And yes, I am using my brand new Tula Pink Mini Aliso. Absolutely love this little thing. It is so perfect. So there we go. Okay. Not sponsored, by the way. There we go. There are 2 of those completed. We actually need to put them like this. There we go. That's what they look like. Let's move on to step number 2. Okay, moving on to our step number 2, we're going to sew a medium D triangle to the 2 sides on the C square as shown, joining the short side to the triangle, short side of the triangle to the square, and we're going to make 2 of these. So I'm going to take my 2 medium-sized triangles, and we're making basically a big triangle using all of these. I'm going to go ahead and sew all this together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those, and now I'm pressing outwards from the C fabric. I'm pressing towards our D fabric. And my table is very slippery, and so it is making my pressing mat move around, but there we go. I've finished pressing those. I'm going to go ahead and move on to step number 4. I just realized a moment ago I said step number 4, I meant step number 3. But moving on to step number 3, it says to sew a small A triangle to one side of a C square, and we're going to make 2. So doing the same thing that we did in step 1, just a little bit in a different position. Let's go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and again, we're pressing outwards towards the A fabric, just like I'm doing here. So there we go. I am done with that. Let's move on to, now we can move on to step number 4. Okay, moving on to step number 4, it says we're going to sew a medium A triangle to 2 sides of the C square as shown, joining the short sides of the triangle to the square. We're going to make 2 of these, so we're just going to be putting these on either side of our C like we did a moment ago on step number 2. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, there we go. I have sewn those together, and now we're pressing again outwards towards our A fabric. And I'm super pleased with how straight of a line I'm getting around each side. Even though it's not 100% perfect, I think it's pretty darn close. So really loving how that's coming out. So we're done with step number 4. Let's move on to step number 5. Okay, we're going to move on to step number 5. It says to sew a C square to either side of an E square. So in my case, I have yellow being my C and E being the orange. So I'm going to sew my C on either side of my E fabric. And then we're going to add 2 small D triangles to the end. We're going to make 2 of these. So it comes out to being something like this double-ended arrow or whatever you want to call that. I'm going to go ahead and sew 2 of these together, I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together and now I'm pressing away from our C fabric. So everything's gonna get pressed away from the C fabric. That means in towards the E fabric and in towards the D fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and press that like so. Okay, moving on to step 6, it says to join a step 2 unit. Okay, moving on to step 6, it says to join step 2 to one side of a step 5, join a step 4 to the other side, and we're going to make 2. So basically we're just lining this all up so that they create a square that has that X pattern to it. I think I have it all in the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all of this together. And we're making 2 of these, of course. Okay, there we go. I've sewn both of those together and now I am pressing. We're going to press away from our center row out towards the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and press it just like you see here on the screen. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. I'm so happy with how my points lined up and everything's looking great on that. So there we go. There is 2 of those. And we're going to label this section as either Clue 3A or Section 3A, whichever way you would like to label them. Okay, moving on to our Section 3B, we're going to start off by combining a small B triangle to a small E triangle. We're going to make 2 of those, just like that. I'm going to come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those 2 together, and now we're pressing towards the B fabric. Just like this. There we go. So I've made 2 of those. Let's move on to step number 2. Okay, moving on to step number 2, it says to join a small B triangle to a small F triangle. And we're going to make 2 of these. So we're just going to combine them just like that. I'll come back when it's time to press that out. All right, we're once again pressing towards our B fabric. So I'm pressing to my turquoise fabric. In this case, it's like a greenish turquoise. I don't know, what color would you call that? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you would think to call this color. All right, we're going to move on to step 3, which says to join a step 1 to the left of a step 2. But remember, when we take our step 2, we're actually going to turn it 90 degrees here. So that way our E and F fabric, which in my case are the orange and blue fabrics, match up to form this flying geese shape. I'm going to make 2 of these and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together and now we're pressing towards our BF half square triangle. These are not aligned perfectly, but you know what, that's okay. Finished is better than perfect, so there we go. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our step number 4. All right, for step number 4, it says to sew a small E triangle to the top right of a medium B triangle. And then we're going to do the same thing and sew the top left on just like this. So we're going to make a flying geese block. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together. We're making 2 of these and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn both of those together and now I am pressing them out just like that. Kind of love that this iron has a flashlight on it. I don't know why that makes me so happy, but it does. All right, there we go. There is our step number 5. Let's move on to step 6. Dang it, I got ahead of myself again. I said step 6, I mean step 5. So for step 5, we're going to be sewing a small B triangle to the top right of a medium E triangle, just like that. Same thing for the other side. I'm going to go ahead and sew 2 of these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those 2 together, and now I'm pressing out both of them. Just like so. Again, if you haven't looked at the direction, it tells you to press outwards towards our E fabrics. There we go. Looks just like that. There we go. Let's now move on to step number 6. Moving on to step number 6 now, we're going to go ahead and sew a D triangle to the top right of a medium B triangle, and then we're going to add a small F triangle to the top left. We're going to make 2 of these. There we go. Looks just like that. I'm going to go ahead and sew those together and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those 2 together and now I am pressing it out again away from our B fabric. So it should look something like this when we're all said and done. I've got 2 of those just like that. Let's move on to step number 7. Okay, here we are at step number 7. It says to join a step 4 to the top of a step 3. So we're going to combine those just like that. Then we're going to add a step 5 on top, and then finally a step 6. So it should look like this. You know you've done it right when your chevrons are lining up and create that kind of chevron shape. I'm going to go ahead and sew both of these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn both of those together, and now I'm pressing in the same direction as the chevrons. You press towards the top of this sequence, just like so. There we go. There is step number 7 done, and we're done with section 3B. So there we go. Both of these are now completed. We have our 3A complete and our 3B complete. I'm going to label them as either clue 3A or section 3A and section 3B or clue 3B, whichever way you'd like. And we're ready to move on to month number 4.